So I wanted to do a bit of a review of some EDC knives. So being in the UK, we're not allowed block knives. Everything's got to be a slip joint or a folding blade. Now normally I've just carried a single bladed knife, but I decided I wanted something with a bit more of a multi-tool capability. So I was having a little look around the market. Ideally I wanted a usable blade, a pair of scissors, because it's amazing how often a pair of scissors are actually really handy and just do a better job than a single blade does, and a bottle opener. They were my main things I was after, and I do quite like the tweezers as well, so that was sort of an extra, but not a must-have. And it was amazing how difficult it is to find anything like that. So my first thoughts were Swiss Army knife. The first one that I bought was this one here, which I really like. This is a Bantam. It's a slip joint knife. They've all got the nail necks. So we've got a standard sort of Victorinox blade on here with their steel, which I don't have a problem with. We've got a blade, and we've got their, I think it's, they call it some sort of multi-tool. We've got a flat end screwdriver with the can opener slash bottle opener. It's slightly angled. I think it's meant to be able to do both, and it does have a little cutout for the wire stripper, and that locks into 2 positions. It's a nice little knife. I like the size of this. The blade's quite a good size, and the Victorinox knives are built very well. I like the sort of solid construction. There's no slop in the joints at all. The bottle opener works fine. You know, I find during lockdown we've been having a lot more bottled beer and bottled drinks. Not been in the pubs so much. So sort of when I'm in the yard, it's kind of nice just to be able to open some bottles. And of course, with this we also get the tweezers, which I don't know, I just find them really handy. I use those quite a lot. But no scissors. And it just seems a real shame that Victorinox just don't offer this knife with scissors, because I'm sure you could do it and not make it much bigger. I mean, look how thin that is. It sort of disappears in the pocket. So next up we've got this much smaller knife from Victorinox. It comes under several guises. This is I think the classic, the SD, this one, a screwdriver, which has got the little nail file on it, which, you know, it's kind of handy to perhaps keep in a sponge bag, but I don't really need a nail file every day. Don't even really need a screwdriver either. They weren't things I wanted. We do have a little blade, but I'll be honest, while I'm not into bushcraft, I do like to carry a blade every day as part of my EDC gear, and I'm often out and about in the countryside and on a farmyard quite a lot. Open a lot of boxes and bags and just sort of general knife work. Something this size, I just find it too small. It's not big enough. If you're trying to reach under and open a bag of a seed or something, it's not the right knife for the job. A blade this size is much more appropriate. Also with the smaller knife, the joint isn't quite so stiff, and with the shorter blade you're far more likely to try and be working sort of blind underneath and have it come around and close on your fingers, which again is not something you want. We do get the tweezers again, which is nice. This one has the toothpick, which again, take or leave it. It wouldn't stop me buying it, but it wouldn't make me buy it either. But we do get a very useful pair of scissors. Quite small scissors. But the trouble is, with this series of knives from Victorinox, you can't get it with the bottle opener and the scissors unless it becomes really fat. So even if I could live with the small blade, I just don't think it's a very good design for EDC for what I want. It's a real shame, because they do it with a bottle opener. You can get it as a bottle opener and a Phillips screwdriver instead of the scissors, but I don't know why you can't buy it with the scissors as well. What does baffle me though is Victorinox sell this knife here, where we've got tools opening from both sides, yeah, but they don't make that in a bigger knife. That's it. As soon as you get to this size, or like this one here, which is the compact, you don't ever get the scissors on the reverse side, which to me just seems baffling. Why they can't just upscale that to that sort of size class with that size blade, I really don't know. It's not the only baffling thing about Victorinox. So actually, swiftly moving on, we have this one here, the compact, which it is compact for what it's got on there, and it's got some nice features, but I'll be honest, when you compare it to the Bantam, it's kind of chunky. You do know you've got this in your pocket. I just EDC this in my jeans pocket, and while I'm happy to carry this, I do find it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit big in the pocket. You always know you've got it with you, whereas something like this just sort of disappears in your pocket. So the compact, we've got a completely useless hook. I've got no idea why they actually put that on anything. I'd love to find a use for it, but never have. It does have a supposed nail file on the back, but I found that to be pretty useless as well. It's not really coarse enough or big enough to do anything with it. In fact, instead of having it on the back edge there, they'd probably be better off putting it on that side. At least the nail file on this is actually useful. You can actually do something with your nails if you split them or something, but that, utterly pointless. We've got the bottle opener on here, which again, everyday carry, do not really want, do not need. I'm very, very unlikely to ever want to open a bottle. I'm not likely to be caught short and think, oh crumbs, I need to pull a cork out of a bottle. I didn't have any planning for that at all. I know you do get to carry this quite useful little screwdriver tool, and there's a couple of options on these. So this is a little spade end one, but you can get a Phillips one, and I think a hex key as well, which, that's kind of handy if the screws on a pair of glasses come loose. But apart from that, it's not an everyday carry sort of tool. You're going to use it once in a blue moon. We've got quite a nice blade. Oddly, I don't quite know why they do this, another strange thing from Victorinox. So we've got two different size blades here between these. Why they don't standardise and use the same blade, I've got no idea. Just seems like it would increase production costs. Don't mind either size. The blade on this is plenty big enough. Both are UK legal, so it's not a problem there. But the biggest thing you get on here is, of course, you get the scissors, which is actually why I bought the compact. So they're the bigger scissors. So if we just compare them to the classic SD, same sort of design. We've got that little sort of flexible leaf spring in there. I would say these scissors are very, very good, and I use them loads. That's why I wanted scissors on the blade. But it does seem that you can't get scissors on this knife or on a Victorinox knife without getting loads of other stuff. Take the corkscrew. If it's got to be on there, I'd rather that be the Phillips screwdriver than the corkscrew. But actually, I'd rather they scaled this up and just put the scissors on the back and got rid of the junk there, and gave me a nicer knife. But there you go. Other things the compact has got, we've got the same multi-tool that we've got on the Bantam pretty much. So we've got the bottle opener, the screwdriver, and what they call a wire stripper. Never use that wire stripper, probably never will. I think that's kind of one of their useless things, just to put on a catalogue to say it's got an extra feature. But there we are. On here we do also have a pen, which, yeah, take it or leave it. Can be handy to have a pen on you. Again, it wouldn't stop me buying the knife, but it wouldn't make me buy it either. Same with a toothpick, and the tweezers, which I've already said I do actually find quite useful. Sometimes get splinters and things, so it's very handy just to be able to use. And the last feature on this knife, it has, I don't know if you can see just in there, it's got a pin as well. Again, I suppose it could be handy. I'm not quite sure what for, but it doesn't take up any extra space on the knife to actually have that. But again, a weird design choice by Victorinox is this little compact has got the pin, a pen, a toothpick and a pair of tweezers. Why has every knife of theirs not got that? You know, you buy bigger knives, some that have got more tools on, and they don't have all of these features in the scales. It's just baffling design decisions that they make. Really can't quite follow them at all. You know, for instance, why has this only got 2 of those bits on there? You could probably add something else, I don't know. But anyhow, beside that, out of these 2 knives, I like to carry this one, but I really do miss having the scissors, so I find I carry this one probably equally as much. This one goes in a sponge bag when I go on holiday. It's too small to really carry. I'd perhaps have it on a key ring, you know, I'd perhaps have it on a set of car keys or something, or shed keys. Whereas these, I know they've got little lanyard loops or key rings on them. Not really fussed about a lanyard, and no way would I have something this big and heavy on my keys. But maybe people do. So ultimately, Victorinox just don't sell anything that really does the job for me perfectly, which is just a bit of a shame, because I think they make good knives, but they just seem to be weird combos of tools. You know, yeah, maybe if you're doing bushcraft, maybe if you are just chucking it in a toolbox, some of the things are a bit handy, but I've got plenty of tools. You know, if I need a screwdriver, to be honest, I'll just go and grab a screwdriver. It's rare that I need to pull a screwdriver out of my pocket just because, but a pair of scissors or a knife, yeah, stuff I would want to use pretty much every day, and I do use them every day. Some other notes on these, the scales, they mark, I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, it probably shows up on the yellow mark. You see how it's all pitted. Now I do carry some keys in the same pocket I EDC these in, but they seem to get dirty and mark very easily. You know, they're nice and shiny and smooth when you buy them, you know, and it only takes a few weeks for them to come and, you know, really look second hand. And yellow especially, you can see it doesn't even clean up very well now. So that's a bit of a shame. I know they do their Alox range of knives with the aluminium scales. Say, for example, you can buy Bantam with the aluminium scales, but it costs like double the amount of money, and you don't get the tweezers. It's like, come on, no, what the hell? You know, surely just because they're aluminium scales doesn't mean you can't put your other accessories on there. But yeah, they don't seem to have really evolved their materials. You know, I don't know how long they've been making these, what they call cellar door scales, but yeah, a bit of a backwards thinking company, I think. But there we are. The last knife I've got here, I bought after doing lots and lots of searching to try and find a knife to do what I want. So this is actually a Boker, or Boker. So Boker Plus, it's a mini tech tool City 4. So they do a range of tech tools, and this is a mini tech tool, and I think there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. But this is the only one that offers this combination. So I think things of note is, yeah, it is similar sort of width to the compact, but it's a little bit smaller, and the shape of the scales are rounded. So it's definitely got a more comfortable profile in your pocket. Look how much shorter it is, even compared to the Bantam. Well, in fact, let's just be fair, it's actually not much longer than the little classic SD here, but you get a really nice little blade. So it's not quite as big as the blades on the Victorinox. Very similar style. But to be honest, it works. It's a good enough blade to do pretty much everything. The slip lock joint's quite nice on it. and I think it's the depth of blade. I mean, that's really my issue with the little classic SD, is the blade is just way too skidly. You know, you feel like if you're going to stick it into anything tough to cut, you run the risk of snapping the knife off, whereas with this you don't. The Boker, I think, uses different steel. It says it's a 12C27 grade with G10 scales, which I'm led to believe is slightly better steel than the Victorinox, although in practice I find them to be pretty similar. They sharpen both about the same and to sort of similar sharpness levels, and they both blunt about as quick as each other. But yeah, I think it's a nice blade. But we do get a pair of scissors, which is great, and we do get a bottle opener. So my three must-haves are met. Sadly, there's no tweezers on this, and Boker don't seem to offer tweezers, which is a shame, because I think, you know, they could have been sort of innovative and had something in the scale somewhere, or something that inserts perhaps into one of the voids, but that's by the by. But we've got three main criteria covered with this knife, and it's nice in the pocket. This is a much nicer knife to EDC than the compact, and it does everything I want from the compact. It's not perfect. I say, well, I like that blade. The scissors, they are acceptable, but you see they've got this lever action here, which in theory I think should be a better, more robust design than the leaf spring that Victorinox use. In practice it's not, and I'll show you why. When I close this, can you see this blade here stays perfectly still, and it's just you've got the scissoring action. Makes them very nice to use. With this, when you do the same, look at that. So this blade here also moves, and it just feels really, really odd to use. So when you are cutting stuff, you do find that they do wobble about, and the precision just is not there. The same if you're trying to cut something small or fiddly, or you know, where you've got to be careful. You only want to cut one thing, like maybe cable ties, and you don't want to damage the underlying cable. I would also say the scissors on here just aren't as good. They don't cut as well. So I was cutting some heat shrink. I was doing some soldering and cutting little lengths of heat shrink. The Victorinox cut straight through it, no trouble. The Boker kind of sort of mashes it a bit and makes a bit of a meal of cutting it. You kind of have to take several attempts and then just wiggle it off the blade. Don't quite know why, but at least we do have scissors on there. And then we have the bottle opener. So the bottle opener design is slightly different. They both work the same sort of way. I'm not too sure if this is meant to be a can opener as well, or just a bottle opener, but again, like a corkscrew, I'm never going to be caught short where I think, oh bugger, I've got to open a can, or a tin of beans or something. You know, I'll go and get a proper can opener for that. But you know, grabbing a bottle of beer out of the cooler when I'm standing in the yard in the sun with some colleagues, yeah, that's likely to happen, so it's very handy. Both of the bottle openers work the same way. You do need to try and get it under the little tab of the bottle cap, so they are a little fiddly to use, but oddly I would say the Victorinox one doesn't work as well. You have to be far more precise and take several attempts and even peel the lid up a little bit to get it to catch, whereas the Boker one tends to work better more of the time. We've got the screwdriver end on here as well, so that's kind of handy. And in a way, it's not angled like the Victorinox one, so it's kind of more natural and comfortable to use. This one kind of feels like it's, you know, when you do the twisting action, because it's angled, it points in a different direction when you turn it around. And we've got this little thing here, which I thought was going to be a novelty, but it's a little hook blade, and actually, it's really, really useful. Several things. So if you've got something that's like cellophane or plastic wrapped, it's not sharp, but it's sharp enough that you can pierce through something and then just slice open, and it completely negates the fact of, you know, running the risk of cutting down where you might damage the product underneath. I've also found this is very good for stripping wire, so especially if you've got some, you know, fatter gauge wire or something that's sort of multi-core, you can put it in here and you can work it round to cut the casing off. So yeah, I found that to be much more handy than I thought I would. So yeah, it was kind of my thoughts really. I still haven't found the perfect knife. I'd like something that's perhaps got slightly better scissors than the Boker, and maybe with some tweezers as well. But this is the closest thing that I've found so far. I've spent literally hours scouring the Victorinox range to try and find something more suitable, and I just don't think they make anything. I think there is one of their Alox ones, can't remember which one it is now, which has scissors, blade, a can opener, a tin opener and an awl, which might be a little bit smaller and thinner than the compact, but probably not a lot. But then you lose the tweezers, so I don't really know if it's worth buying, to be honest. In terms of money, the little Bantam is great value for money. They're really cheap. I think it's like £13 for one of these, £13–14, which sort of seems really good value. This one here I think was about 37 quid for the compact, which again is probably pretty good value for the amount of tools you get, and I can certainly see it would be a handy knife to perhaps keep in, you know, a backpack or in a vehicle. You know, if you were to go camping and you did buy a bottle of wine, if you'd got this stowed away somewhere, then yeah, great, you've got a corkscrew as well. And everything's sort of functional on here, apart from this weird, bizarre, useless hook that I know they really want you to believe is a good tool, but just isn't. It's just rubbish. And the Boker, this was similar money to the compact. I think it's about 35–36 quid. But I would say this is probably my favourite, and out of all of these it's the one I'm most likely to carry, but it does depend on what I'm doing, so I tend to swap them about a little bit. But if anyone's got any other suggestions for a knife that is UK legal friendly, pocket friendly, with a decent blade, a pair of scissors and a bottle opener on, let me know. I haven't found it yet. Spyderco do some interesting knives that have a blade and a pair of scissors, or a blade and a bottle opener, but they're kind of pricey for what they are. I might get one of those just to see what they're like, but I don't think they're actually going to do anything any better than these are, apart from maybe, you know, perhaps slightly better steel in the blade, but I don't think they use particularly good high quality steel for those particular brands of their knives. I know some of their knives are very, very good. So I'd guess they'd be comparable to these. Although to be honest, I don't really have a problem with the steel on any of these. It's sharp enough for what I do and use them for, and they're durable enough for what I use. You know, it makes sharpening just quick and easy, and you just do it sort of, you know, once in a while if you've used a knife heavily, you know, that evening to sharpen it, or, you know, sort of once every week or so if you haven't. Right, cheers.